Hello, and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is Félicette, the Paris cat who touched the stars. Paris smells like warm bread and wet stone in the early morning. The river Seine runs silver between its banks of gray stone. Pigeons murmur on the rooftops of tall old buildings. A baker in a white apron carries a golden tray of croissants to his window. And on a quiet cobblestone street in the heart of the city, a small black and white cat steps out from behind a wooden crate. She stretches slowly, one paw at a time. She yawns so wide you can see every tiny tooth. She has no name, no home, no person to call her own, but she has Paris. She knows the chestnut seller on the corner, whose hands smell of smoke and sweetness. She knows the warm air that drifts up from the bakery vent on cold mornings. She knows which windowsill gets the first patch of afternoon sun. She is quick and calm and quiet. When a car rumbles past on the cobblestones, she does not run. When pigeons startle and scatter upward into the gray sky, she simply watches them go. Her eyes are golden. Her heart is steady. She does not know it yet. But those golden eyes, that steady heart, they are about to carry her somewhere no cat has ever been. Not far from the Eiffel Tower, in a quiet Paris laboratory called CERMA, a group of scientists had a very important question. The year was 1963. Across the world, people were looking up at the sky with wonder. Rockets were flying higher every year. France wanted to learn too. We need to understand what happens to a living creature in space, said one scientist, tapping his pencil on a tall stack of papers. We should use a cat, said another, a very calm cat. They needed a cat that could sit quietly in a very small, very dark space. A cat that did not panic at loud sounds. A cat with a steady heartbeat, even when everything around it was roaring and shaking. They went to the streets of Paris. They looked at many cats. Some ran the moment a hand reached toward them. Some hissed and arched their backs. Some leaped over walls and disappeared. But one small black and white cat just sat. A scientist crouched down in front of her. He clapped his hands together loudly. Right next to her ear, she did not flinch. She blinked. She tilted her head just slightly. Her golden eyes studied the scientist carefully, as if she were the one doing the choosing. That one, the scientist said quietly. She was brought to the laboratory. She was given an official number, C341. Not a beautiful name, but an important one. Every day, the scientists played recordings of rocket engines. The sound was enormous, a deep, shaking roar that rattled the windows and rolled down the hallways. C341 curled up on her small blue blanket and listened. She was placed inside small metal boxes, barely bigger than herself. The boxes vibrated, they spun, they hummed with machine sounds that no cat had ever heard before. She stayed still. She stayed calm, every single time. 14 cats trained alongside her. But C341 was different from all the others. She was the steadiest, the quietest, the most patient. She was ready. In October, the air in Paris turned cold and crisp. Leaves fell from the chestnut trees like small gold coins, but C341 did not stay to watch the autumn come. She was taken on a long journey, first across the blue-green Mediterranean Sea, then across the pale orange sands of North Africa, deep into the Sahara Desert. The Sahara is the largest hot desert in the whole world. Its sand stretches in every direction as far as any eye can see. At night, the stars there are so thick and bright, they look like someone spilled a bowl of salt across the dark. This was Hammagyr, a launch base at the edge of nowhere where France tested its rockets far from any city. The little cat arrived in the cool early morning. She sniffed the air. It smelled like sand and metal and something sharp and electric she had no word for. Before her stood a white rocket, tall and slender as a needle, pointed straight at the sky. It was called Veronique. At the very top of Veronique was a small capsule, just big enough for one small, calm cat. A doctor in a white coat lifted her gently. He pressed his fingers softly around her tiny paws. He checked her heartbeat. Steady, good. He looked into her golden eyes. "You are going somewhere no cat has ever been," he said softly. She looked back at him without blinking. He placed her inside the capsule. The metal was cool against her paws. The space was small and dark. It smelled of wires and machine oil, but she had practiced in small, dark spaces many times before. She tucked her paws under her chest. She waited. Outside, engineers in heavy boots checked every dial, every wire, every bolt. The desert stretched silent and enormous in every direction. The sun rose higher, turning the sand from pink to orange to burning gold. At 8 o'clock in the morning, on the 18th of October, 1963, a voice crackled over the radio. 10-9-8. Scientists leaned toward their instruments. Engineers watched their screens. Everyone held very still. 7-6-5. A deep vibration began somewhere inside Veronique. A sound like the earth itself clearing its throat. 4-3-2-1 fire. A great white column of flame and smoke erupted from the base of the rocket. The noise rolled across the desert floor like thunder, like an earthquake, like nothing you have ever heard. Veronique rose. Slowly at first, then faster still. Within seconds, it was a bright speck high above the Sahara. Then it was gone. Inside the capsule, the little cat felt herself pressed back into her seat with enormous force. Everything shook, everything roared, but her heartbeat stayed steady. Tiny sensors on her head sent signals back to the control room far below. The scientists watched the data stream in on their screens. "She is calm," the instrument said. "She is all right." The rocket climbed higher. The sky outside turned from pale blue to deep purple to black. Then the engine stopped, the roaring stopped, everything stopped. The capsule separated from the rocket body and kept rising, carried by its own speed. The little cat floated, just slightly, just gently weightless. Her paws touched nothing. Her tail drifted in the perfectly still air. She turned her ears, listening for sounds that were not there, 157 kilometers above the earth. Higher than any bird has ever flown, higher than any cloud, higher than any airplane. Below her, the Sahara Desert was a pale stripe at the edge of a curved blue world. She was there above all of it. For 5 minutes, she floated in silence. Then the capsule turned and began to fall back toward the earth. High in the desert sky, a white parachute blossomed open like a flower. It caught the rushing air. The capsule slowed. It swayed gently side to side, drifting downward through the warm blue sky. Below, vehicles raced across the sand. Orange dust clouds billowed behind them. The capsule landed with a soft thump in the Sahara. A scientist turned the latch. The door swung open. There she was. Dusty, calm, blinking in the bright desert light. Very much alive. A cheer erupted across Hamagire. Scientists embraced, engineers shouted and clapped. A doctor scooped up the little cat and held her gently against his chest. She pressed her small warm head into his shoulder. "She made it," he whispered. His voice was thick and soft. She had made it. She was the first cat to travel to space. She was the only cat ever to come home safely. Word traveled fast from the desert to the city, from France to the whole world. Newspapers scrambled to tell the story. People in cafes and schools and offices looked up from what they were doing and said, "Did you hear? France sent a cat to space, and she came home." The newspapers needed a name for her. Someone suggested Félix, after Félix le Chat, the famous French cartoon cat who had appeared on walls and posters and in films across Paris for decades. Everyone knew Félix. But the scientists said, "No, Félix is a boy's name, she is a girl," and so they gave her a girl's name, a beautiful name, a name made of old French music and starlight, Félicette. Her photograph was on the front page of newspapers across France the next morning. A small black and white cat, calm as always, sitting still as if she had simply gone for a stroll. But she had not gone for a stroll. She had traveled 157 kilometers above the Earth. She had floated in a silence like nothing on Earth. She had gone all the way to the edge of the sky and beyond. And she had returned home. She was the only cat in history to make that journey and survive. The tiny sensors on her head had sent back some of the best data the scientists had ever collected. They learned what happens to a living brain in space. They learned what weightlessness does to a calm heart. Félicette helped France understand something that had never been understood before. Years went by. Decades passed. The world changed and changed again. But people who loved cats, and people who loved history, and people who loved the idea of a small brave creature doing something extraordinary, they did not forget. In 2019, more than 55 years after her flight, people all around the world donated money together. Scientists, cat lovers, children, grandparents, all of them together. A sculptor made a bronze statue. It shows Félicette sitting on top of a small globe, a model of the Earth. She is looking upward, her gaze turned toward the sky. Her tail curls neatly around her paws. She has the expression that cats have when they see something very far away and wonder what it might be. The statue stands today at the International Space University in Strasbourg, a beautiful city in the east of France. If you ever visit, you can stand right beside her. You can look up at the same sky she is looking at. And if you're ever in Paris, if you walk along the Seine on a morning when the light is silver and the bread shops smell of butter and warmth, you might look down at the old cobblestones under your feet. Somewhere near here, long ago, a small black and white cat used to walk. She had no name then. She belonged to no one and everyone. She watched the pigeons with her calm golden eyes. She curled up in warm doorways. She lived in the city the way cats have always lived in Paris, quietly, cleverly, beautifully. And then, on one cold October morning in 1963, she went to the stars. Her name was Félicette. She was a Paris cat, and she changed history. And so Paris also slowly fell asleep. Good night.